Bonjour.
Did you know that General George Washington had a French friend?
Oui, it is true. His name was Lafayette. He came all the way from France.
Yeah, he was inspired by the American Revolution and by George Washington himself.
This is all true. True story. It is, in fact, very true. American histoire.
It is true, and that's why they became revolutionary friends. Let's read.
Oui, s'il vous plaît, commence, storyteller.
I will commence. Thank you, Gilles the Giraffe and Red Bear. Revolutionary Friends, a true story of the incredible friendship between General George Washington and the Marquis de Lafayette. And right here, you know what this is? A signed copy from the author herself. That's right, we're important like that here at KidTimeStoryTime. Our story begins July 31st, 1777. Now, as you recall, you know what happened just a year before.
I know.
All right, Red Bear, you can tell us what happened.
The Declaration of Independence was issued.
That's right. And what did the Declaration of Independence do?
Well, basically, the American colonies decided that they no longer wanted to be part of England, but wanted to be their own country of the United States of America. Revolution was in the air. Oh.
This is very true. C'est le moment. It is the moment. Lafayette quivered with excitement. What a thrill to dine at City Tavern among American patriots he so admired. Was he dreaming? Mais non! But no. Dreams did not offer the succulent aromas of fine dining or the sharp scent of dark ale. This was real. Magnifique. Indeed. It says here, in fact, a quote of Marquis de Lafayette explaining why he left France for America. Why? Having to choose between the slavery that everyone believes he has the right to impose upon me and liberty which called me to glory, I departed. He felt enslaved by his country and felt that liberty was where his heart was calling. 19-year-old Marie-Joseph Paul-Yves Roche-Gilbert du Motier, also known as Marquis de Lafayette, ventured a great deal to get there. He had always felt a call to glory. His heart enlisted when he heard of the American struggle. The rest of his body proved to be more difficult. The French king denied his request to leave. No, au contraire. So Lafayette, what did he do? Oh, he didn't just take the no for an answer. He paid for his own ship and slipped out of France, spending 54 stomach-wrenching days at sea. Mon Dieu, that sounds terrible. It is terrible. Then he had suffered a month of broken carriages, lame horses, and nightly mosquito raids as he trekked hundreds of miles. Look at that. Just there's a broken carriage. It's windy. Ooh, it's tough out there. He says here, never before had such a glorious cause attracted the attention of mankind. It was the final struggle of liberty, and its defeat would have left it neither asylum nor hope. When I first heard of the American Revolution, my heart was enlisted, and I thought only of joining the colors. The cause of freedom calls to people everywhere, not just in the United States. Now, here he was, finally, and in the same room as the great George Washington. Très bien. City Tavern was jammed and humming with animated voices and the steady clinking of glasses. Lafayette spotted the 45-year-old commander-in-chief immediately. His figure and his manner separated him from the surrounding crowd. George Washington, in case you didn't know, was very tall, so he kind of stood out, literally. Lafayette had to meet him maintenant, which means right now. Washington was weary. His recent days hard. The British lay near. Were they readying to strike? Washington's ragtag troops could not match the hardy Redcoats. That's the name of the British troops, the Redcoats. Members of Congress badgered Washington. Why wasn't he preparing Philadelphia for attack? Peck, peck, peck. Their voices prickled his brain. Washington was tired of sharing strategies with men deaf to reason. That man's deaf to reason, that they couldn't hear his reasoning. And it says here, Marquis de Lafayette on the atmosphere when he arrived in Philadelphia. And this is all researched and true, based on actual historical documents. Marquis de Lafayette said when he arrived on this ambiance that he found, the moment, although important to the common cause, was peculiarly unfavorable to strangers. The Americans were displeased with the pretensions and disgusted with the conduct of many Frenchmen. Oh, so he knew he was going into unfriendly waters. Now, there was someone else to consider, tonight's guest, the young Frenchman who gawked in admiration. There was an important reason to treat Lafayette cordially, though. Of noble birth, he could improve relations with France, and France was an ally that America needed. Well, when you're at war with Britain, you need a friend like France. This explained why Congress had given Lafayette an honorary position in the army. No salary, no command, just a major general sash. Now, Washington was prepared to discount Lafayette. Discount not meaning reduce his price, just sort of assume that he wasn't going to underestimate him, that's the word. He underestimated Lafayette. He was going to. The previous French recruits that he had met had been snobbish, bossy, and unwilling to learn English. On top of it all, Lafayette was, well, he was kind of scrawny and young and inexperienced. Oh, do not worry, we Frenchmen, we grow into our looks. All right, Gilles. Well, what possible good could Lafayette be, they thought. Still, it was in America's best interest to invite Lafayette into Washington's military family, so there he is at the table, people looking cranky. Oh, there's some bread, there's probably some ale. Everybody's trying to tell him what to do, poor George. Well, Lafayette was blissfully unaware of Washington's opinions. He had adopted the motto, que non, why not? Having come that far, why not go further? What an excellent motto, don't you think? I agree. When you think about something and you are not sure if you should proceed or not, you should think to yourself, why not? Exactly. Just go for it, right? Lafayette was anxious to be trained and eager to communicate. He had actually studied English while on that rough sea. He adored America, and because Washington represented America, Lafayette idolized him. So Washington approached. Enchanté. The commander complimented Lafayette on his noble spirit and the sacrifices he had made. He invited Lafayette to live in his quarters. Voila! To Lafayette, the cementing of their bond was as simple as that. Here's another letter from Marquis de Lafayette to his wife back in France. I have a friend. That friend is General Washington, this excellent man whose talents and virtues I admired and whom I have learned to revere as I know him better, has now become my intimate friend. His affectionate interest in me instantly won my heart. I am established in his house, and we live together like two attached brothers, with mutual confidence and cordiality. This friendship renders me as happy as I can possibly be in this country. Wow, their bond was instant and, well, it would change things. You just wait. Lafayette charmed everyone at headquarters. Did that include Washington? Perhaps. But Washington, well, he had other things on his mind. His army was in terrible shape. Just days after they met, he invited Lafayette to come and review the troops. An embarrassment. 11,000 ill-armed, barely clothed men who did not look exactly ready to fight. Look at these faces. Do these guys look like they're raring to go? Ooh, here's a Revolutionary era flag. Don't tread on me. Isn't that cool? I love that flag. We must feel embarrassed, said George Washington, to exhibit ourselves before an officer who has just quitted French troops. It is to learn and not to teach that I come hither, replied Marquis de Lafayette, and that modest tone, which was not common in Europeans, produced a very good effect. If I recall correctly in my history, Don't Tread on Me, this was designed by Benjamin Franklin. The British, however, were ready to rumble, and they were close by. 200 English warships had landed only a few miles away. Oh, une situation grave. Indeed. Lafayette saw the fear in the Philadelphians' faces. He observed Washington carefully. What would the commander do? These are difficult times. Washington needed to raise spirits. His troops would parade through the streets. Drums and fifes in quickstep, green sprigs in hats. In front, Washington on horseback. And beside him, Lafayette. A parade was boom! That's good. But Lafayette wanted a command. Burning to prove himself, he nagged Washington in Congress, s'il vous plaît. That means please. And he wrote, Marquis de Lafayette, describing the parade, their heads covered with green branches and marching to the sound of the drums and fifes. These soldiers, in spite of their state of nudity, offered an agreeable spectacle to the eyes of all the citizens. Okay, he didn't mean they were actually nude, but meaning that they did not have great clothes. Some of them were missing shoes. They were ragtag, if you will. Now, look at George. He's looking very concerned. He was experiencing an emotion he didn't often feel. Huh? What is this? He had grown fond of Lafayette. You know, George Washington never had children of his own. So he, also, as you know, is known father of our country. He became sort of a surrogate father to a lot of young men, like Marquis de Lafayette. Now, Washington appealed to Congress. Would they give the Marquis a chance? A chance at running his own troops? Congress said, no. Washington sat Lafayette down. He apologized for the distress the young man felt. Although he had no power to grant a command, Washington did have affection to offer. He told Lafayette to think of him as friend and father. A father! Quel honneur! What an honor! Lafayette was touched in the deepest way. I admit, I want to cry right now, just a little bit. Poor Gilles. Well, could he ever experience the glory that he wished to feel? Just after his 20th birthday, look how young he was. He was just a teenager. Just after his 20th birthday, the chance came. On September 11th, the British were coming, zut alors, advancing through Brandywine Creek 30 miles outside Philadelphia. Washington was determined to block them, but where in the creek would the British cross? There were so many fords. Washington knew of some. Did the British know of others? Worse, a heavy fog. Look how foggy it is. A heavy fog had set in that morning. Spotting the enemy would prove impossible. At headquarters, near a main ford, Lafayette waited with Washington for word. The news? Devastating. The British had broken through several of Brandywine's fords. The American troops were panicking. Lafayette was on fire to join in. He requested permission from Washington. Washington stared at Lafayette. The Americans were outnumbered, even with the reinforcements that had just been sent. The Marquis could get himself killed, but he looked so excited to prove himself. So what did Washington do? What happened? What happened next? He told him to proceed. Yes, I cannot wait to see what happens next. Down the page. Okay, I need you to move there. Oh, okay, pardonnez-moi. No problem, Gilles. I forgive you for your excitement. Through the smoky haze and British musket blast, Lafayette spotted terrified American soldiers fleeing. Oh no! There was only one thing to do. Lafayette dismounted. He raced into the ranks, a one-man rallying tour de force. Sparked by Lafayette's courage, the soldiers returned to the fight, and with renewed vigor they advanced. The noises were deafening, weapons blasting, wounded men screaming, and the scent of gunpowder suffocating. Look at all that powder in the air. That looks like fog. It's gunpowder. Mon Dieu, that means my God. A ball passed through Lafayette's left leg. Oh, the pain! But he waged on, ignoring the fiery spasms until what? Until the remaining American forces gave way and headed into the woods. Blood spilled from his boot. He needed help. Immédiatement. You know what that means. Immediately. Gimat, his aide, appeared at his side and hastily wrapped his wound. Oh, look at the pain on his face. The enemy was near. They were closing in. Lafayette was almost taken. Gimat found a horse and boosted Lafayette up. Allez! That means go, go, go. His leg throbbing in protest, Lafayette rode 12 miles to a stone bridge on the heels of the frenzied retreating American troops. He stopped them and established a degree of order. Duties done, Lafayette dropped. From pain, from exhaustion, the Americans had lost. But they'd live to fight another day. Yeah, The Revolutionary War was tough, kid. It was not the foregone conclusion everybody thinks it is. It was very hard and very touch and go. Carried to a nearby house, Lafayette laid on a table. His wound needed dressing. There he is. In tramped Washington and his officers, weary, ravenous. Do you know what ravenous means? Oui, it means we need to mange. Oui, it means that we need to eat. Lafayette managed a joke, asking not to be eaten. Washington was grave. That means extremely serious. There were enough casualties that day. He would not lose Lafayette. He could not lose him because they were friends. He instructed the doctor, "Take care of him as if he were my son, for I love him with the same affection." Wow, what a bond. Well, it says here, the revolutionary friendship continued. From that moment on, Washington and Lafayette's commitment was sealed. They were devoted to each other. In 1777, Lafayette wrote a letter. I admire Washington more each day for the beauty of his character and his spirit. Now, that injury to his leg left him bedridden for just over a month. And, well, when he finally was able to get back, Washington asked Congress to award Lafayette a command. "He is sensible, discreet in his manners. He made great proficiency in our language." That means he learned to speak English. "And from the disposition he discovered at the Battle of Brandywine, possesses a large share of bravery and military ardor." Congress eventually agreed. In late 1777, there was actually a movement to replace Washington with another general, Horatio Gates, and Lafayette wrote, "The people have become attached to victorious generals, and the commander-in-chief has not been fortunate. I was attached to Washington, and I did not waver. Despite the flatteries of other parties, I remained faithful." Oh, that means they were trying to lure Lafayette away. Now, in here it says, Washington wrote to Lafayette, "I am persuaded, my dear Marquis, there is no need of fresh proofs to convince you either of my affection for you personally or of the high opinion I entertain of your military talents and merits. Adieu, my dear Marquis. My best wishes will ever attend you." See? That's how they wrote back and forth to each other. Now, he wrote this because he had to go back, Lafayette had to go back to Europe for a little while. But he was letting him know that he was still a faithful friend. Now, this is a lot of factoids. Let's keep on going here. Now, Lafayette wrote to Washington, "Farewell, my most beloved general. It is not without emotion I bid you this last adieu before so long a separation. Don't forget an absent friend." That means don't forget me because I'm not around. "And believe me forever and ever with the highest respect and tenderest affection." Lafayette served France against England. In 1780, at the end of his campaign, he came back to America, and Washington's eyes filled with tears of joy when he learned Lafayette was on his way. And Lafayette came with great news. He had convinced the French king to send troops to aid the American cause. This was a huge victory. Now, this is how he contributed. He and his troops trapped British General Lord Cornwallis and his men at Yorktown, Virginia, until the American and French armies arrived. That battle that then ensued at Yorktown was the last major conflict of the war. 2 years later, in 1783, the war would formally end. But the Battle of Yorktown is truly where the American cause prevailed, and this is when the American Revolution had its ultimate turning point. Well, so Lafayette went back to France, and he and Washington kept writing each other even more when Washington retired, since he had more time from running the country, and they would exchange gifts. Lafayette would return to America in 1784 for a 2-week visit at Mount Vernon. That's George Washington's house. He even came to visit him at his house. Bidding Lafayette farewell, the heart-sick Washington sensed he would never see his adopted son again. Washington was of a short-lived family and might soon expect to be entombed. Of a short-lived family, meaning that his people did not live to be very old, and he expected to be entombed, put into a tomb. He expected to die soon. But Lafayette refused to accept this prediction. "My whole soul revolts at the idea," he wrote. "To you I shall return, and within the walls of Mount Vernon we shall yet often speak of old times." Now, Lafayette had to go back to fight his own war. This was the beginning of the French Revolution, and Lafayette ordered the Bastille, a hated prison and fortress of despotism, destroyed. Now, he sent Washington the key to the Bastille, how about that, with a note. It is a tribute which I owe as a son to my adoptive father, as an aide de camp to my general, as a missionary of liberty to its patriarch, to the father of liberty. Washington treasured this tribute to liberty, but he worried about Lafayette's safety, and he was right. The French Revolution did not go well. Lafayette had to flee, or he would lose his head. You see that? There he is, behind bars. Captured at the Austrian border, Lafayette would spend 5 years in prison. And with his hands politically tied, Washington couldn't do anything. Although he did provide asylum, that means a home, for Lafayette's son. And yeah, check this out. You know what Lafayette's son's name was? George Washington Lafayette. Is that love or what? Now, in 1797, Lafayette finally got out, but he still couldn't visit his beloved general. Tensions were stirring between the U.S. and France. People feared that war would erupt. Washington advised his friend to stay away. So he did, but for too long. On December 14th, 1799, George Washington died. Lafayette mourned the loss of his father and friend. He returned to his beloved America, one last time in 1824 for just over a year. That was the anticipation of the 50th anniversary celebration of America's independence. That's when America turned 50. He came for a whole year to celebrate, and he visited the tomb of Washington at Mount Vernon. Alone in the underground chamber, Lafayette wept. Adieu, mon général. Adieu. The Life of Lafayette. And George Washington wrote, I do most devoutly wish that we had not a single foreigner among us except the Marquis de Lafayette. Because back then, America was fighting hard for its freedom, and to have foreigners meant possibly a threat. Not anymore. But back then, it was very difficult to, win independence. It's a different kind of era. And the back of the book is full of facts by the years, the life of George Washington, the life of Lafayette, and then places to visit like Valley Forge and Independence National Historical Park in Philadelphia and Yorktown in Virginia and Colonial Williamsburg. Oh, this book is great. I highly encourage you to add this to your library, especially if you love American history. And even look at this, a little bit of French. Oh, let me read. C'est le moment. This is the time. Mais non, but no. Magnifique. You know that one. Yeah, that's magnificent. Everyone knows that. Au contraire means on the contrary. Très bien means very good. Maintenant means now. That is one of my favorite words, as I am an impatient giraffe. Yeah, you are. Voilà means there you have it. Une situation grave. A serious situation. That is a good word.
Yeah, like if you get into trouble, it's a situation grave.
Exactly. You're very good, Red Bear.
Oh, I've been studying Spanish, but maybe I can learn some French.
Zut alors!
Is that French?
Oui.
Is that French?
Oui.
That's still French.
Oui. Okay. You guys, thank you so much for bringing me this book and sharing it with me.
I thought it was important that people know that this French friend of George Washington helped us win the American Revolution.
Oui. Très important to have friends from all walks of life, don't you think?
I do think. I said sing. All right, kid. Well, I hope that you also have revolutionary friends.
Oui, friends from all walks of life, preferably French.
See you next time, kid, on Kid Time Storytime. And remember, buy this book if you thought it was as awesome as I do. And of course, subscribe so you can stay up on all our Frenchy and American goings on around here.
Oui, you never know what we are doing around here.
That's very true.